What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is David Hamlin, aka the Laptop Legend, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about what VWAP is and why you need to know how to use it in terms of trading stocks, because it is an indicator that's super important. This might seem like a boring topic to you, but imagine if you knew where exactly stocks were going to turn. If you knew exactly the high point where a stock was going to bounce off of so you could sell at the highest point, or you knew the bottom where a stock was going to bounce off of so you could buy there, if you knew that, would that help you? Well, this indicator is where stocks bounce off a lot of times. And because of that, it's something that you need to learn. And I want to talk about exactly how I use VWAP in general and how you can use it to better your trading overall. Now, this is going to be part of the free stock trading course series that I have, so definitely check out that playlist on my channel. I'll try to throw the link down in the pinned comment as well, maybe in the description, but I have a lot of other videos that if you're newish to day trading, you definitely want to take a look at those because they're really helpful. And yeah, I'm going to dive into it, but please make sure to like this video if you find it helpful. Also, subscribe if you have not already. Actually, I just want to mention yesterday, I thought I finished 7,500. I actually finished up 9,500 something on the day. Pretty dang cool, almost a 5-figure day, so very excited about that. So yeah, let's dive into it now. All right guys, so I'm here at my laptop. Please bear with me. I'm a little under the weather. It's not schmovid, just a cold, but just keep that in mind. I still want to make a video for you guys because I don't want to miss a single day this entire year. So I am in Thinkorswim by TD Ameritrade, and just to review real quickly, you can put VWAP as an indicator on the chart. You'll see it's a line in a second here. You can put it on in TD Ameritrade on Thinkorswim, but you cannot add it to your chart in Fidelity Active Trader Pro yet. You can only put it in your watch list. So if you want to see it on the chart and be aware of where it is, it's kind of helpful to have it on the chart. You want to go and create a free account at Thinkorswim. I mean at TD Ameritrade, and then you can open I guess you create the TD Ameritrade account, you download Thinkorswim, and if you put $500 in there, you get live data. Otherwise, it's delayed by like 15 minutes. But if you're charting afterwards, you can see it here. So if you want to put it on your TD Ameritrade account in Thinkorswim, you go to Studies, you go to Add Study, you go all the way down here, you go to Market Strength Studies, go back over, and go to VWAP. Now, there's actually going to be 3 bands. I can go to Settings here and remove some of those. I forget exactly where the settings is, but this is the one that's important. There's, I guess, technically a couple VWAP bands. Let me get a tissue here. My nose is trying to die on me. So you can see here, this is the main VWAP band that we care about. And why is this important? Well, VWAP is variable weighted average price, if I didn't already explain that. And the reason it's important is because this is technically the average price for every single share that has been traded today, because to calculate it, you get the total number of shares times the price divided by the total number of shares. So basically, this is the average price that has been paid for all shares exchanged on that day. And obviously, this fluctuates throughout the day, but when it is under VWAP, that means that the sellers are in control typically. That means that the sellers are in control because more people, more share, it's currently trading under the price where the average person has bought it on the day, if that makes sense. Now, once it perks up through VWAP, typically that's a good sign that the buyers are in control. That's a good sign that the buyers are in control because, the average price is down here and it's now up here. So it's trading above what people on average have paid for it on the day. So you just have to keep that in mind. And again, this is greatly affected by the volume. Because if someone buys 1 million shares at, say, 60 cents here, and then someone buys, 100,000 shares down at 40 cents, it's not going to move it down that much. So you can see most of the volume is early on in the day for most stocks. And because of that, it doesn't really move as much later on in the day. Now, we can see some more volume came in here, but it came in, right near the VWAP price already. So it doesn't really move the line too much. You can see some of this volume up here makes the line move up a little bit, but in general, I mean, it's pretty much flat. Now, how do you use this? How do you use this in general when you're trading? How can I use VWAP? You're wondering. It's a line. Okay, that's cool. How can I use this to make me a better trader? Now, the way that I like to do it is not as a risk level. I like to use it in general as a way of knowing whether or not the stock is still strong on the day. And I also like to use it for profit taking, and I like to use it for entries. So not for risk. I don't typically use this as like a stop loss area because a lot of times it breaks up through VWAP and then comes back down under. It can be choppy. You can see here, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. But typically, it's a good area for entries, and it's a good area for taking profits if you want to, catch kind of the exact bottom before a temporary bounce. Because a lot of times what it'll do is it'll bounce immediately right off of VWAP, but then it'll keep going, if that makes sense. And I just want to give you an example of, let me see. Let me actually pull up the ticker today. I forget which one. I was shorting a stock today, and yeah, you can see EBON. So let me just pull this up here for you real quick. So EBON, if I zoom in a tiny bit here, let me zoom in maybe a little bit more. Zoom in a little bit more for you guys. All right, so I figured out how to remove the other two VWAP bands on here. You can see if I go back to studies, I go to edit studies, I go to VWAP, I click on the settings here. I just unclick all these for upper band and lower band. So now they're gone. Now it's a little easier to see because it's a little more zoomed in. So I just wanted to give an example of how I use VWAP for profit taking. So you can see here, this stock was up a ton today. I made like $350 shorting it today. And I mean, it went from, $7. If we go back to yesterday, I mean, it was up from, like $7. So, I mean, it went from like $7 all the way up to $11. And I was shorting it in this area. I shorted into some of these spikes and was, covered on some of these dips. I'm still working on my short technique, so I'll talk to you guys about my strategies on that once I get it a little bit more down. But you can see here, it kept bouncing, and it had some really good support, kept trying to bounce, but it also had some resistance in this area, 11.2, 11.3, and it could not break past that. And when it eventually broke down, it broke down under this VWAP area. And you can see there was a huge crack when it did, and that was kind of a change in what the stock was doing, if that makes sense. It's a change overall in who is in control of the stock. And typically speaking, this is just an area, again, where once it goes under, the sellers are more in control. And if a stock is up a lot on the day and it breaks under VWAP, that's a good sign that the run is probably going to be over. Now, do you want to short right away on a break into VWAP? Typically not. Typically, you don't want to short right away on a break into VWAP. But a lot of times, what I like doing is, it dumps through VWAP, and then it comes back up towards VWAP, and I would short into VWAP. And I actually did that here. I took an entry here, and then I added here, and ended up covering down here. But another thing that I did was, you can actually see here, I was short here at 10.28 because I shorted into this spike, and I had the perfect cover. And you can see I actually I caught the very bottom of this wick here. I covered right at VWAP, and it wicked down, covered me, and bounced immediately back off. So there's people who are buying and selling at VWAP because they know it's an area where it's likely to bounce. So you can use this as a short seller and as a long seller. If you want to place a limit order before the stock even gets there, a lot of times it's good to place your order on VWAP or right around VWAP as an entry because that's the area where the stock is going to bounce. So say you can only go long. Say you can't take any shorts because I know a lot of you guys don't have, a big account that's margin that you can go shorting on. Well, in this case, if you're looking for a dip entry, you see a bunch of green candles here, you're like, damn, that's kind of a lot of green candles. I know David said chasing is a bad idea. Let me wait for a little bit of a pullback. But I don't know where I want to wait for the pullback. Where do I think it's going to bounce off of? Well, you could place your order. You could place a buy limit at buy 10.15, 10.16 limit, because that's right where the VWAP is, and say, if it dips down there, I'm willing to buy. And you can place that order as it's still going up. You're not going to get filled on the way up because the price is 10.25. No one's going to sell it to you for 10.15 when the price is 10.25. But once it dips down, you instantly get filled on this wick, and then you're positive instantly on your position. Now, this doesn't always work, obviously, but it's just a good idea to take profits or look for entries at an area where it typically bounces off of. And I really like doing that. Now, if it's just above VWAP, barely holding above, you wouldn't want to obviously look for an entry right at VWAP because that's kind of silly. It's kind of silly. And you can see here a few times it bounced a little bit before VWAP. And I mean, I might have taken a stab at an entry at VWAP here and then, cut when it broke under because a lot of times stocks will bounce off of VWAP. But if you're long, I would say from, anywhere in this area, I don't think VWAP is the greatest risk. I think you can risk off of these lows before. So I don't think cutting at VWAP is necessarily a good idea. So again, I think VWAP is better used for taking an entry or for taking profits, not for cutting losses, if that makes sense. Because again, a bounce through VWAP doesn't always mean that the stock is going to be done for the day. So if I go MDMP, just to give you that example again, I didn't want to zoom in that much. Come on, man. I mean, just because it perks through VWAP doesn't mean it's done for the day. But I mean, in this case, you know, perking through VWAP could be a good entry. Either way. It could be a good entry if you're shorting into VWAP, or you could buy for the break of VWAP. But it's just a key area where a lot of traders use to determine, you know, who's in control of the stock. And I guess that's the big thing that I want to have you guys take away from this. And obviously, it's going to take some practice, but this is the main indicator that day traders use. I think all the good day traders who I follow, they literally only use VWAP. They don't use 50-day moving day average. They don't use exponential average. They don't use Bollinger Bands. They don't use any of that stuff. And there's a million different indicators. I mean, you can go to these studies, guys. I mean, there's so many studies. Look at all these studies. I mean, look at all these. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's so many. There's so many. Look at all. I mean, it's insane. This is overwhelming. So if you guys want to pick one indicator that you can put on your chart, put this one on there. I think it's really helpful because again, a lot of times stocks will bounce directly off of VWAP, and it's a great entry point. It's a great entry point. You know, it's I just love it. Honestly, it's very helpful, and I wish I had some other stocks just to show you kind of an example. I guess this is a good example right here. So you can see on this day, you know, it perked up, and then it came back down, dipped under VWAP for a little bit, but then was just hugging VWAP. This is a pretty good entry right here. This is a pretty good entry, risking on the low a day, because if it's hugging VWAP, that means, you know, buyers are in control and short sellers are a little uncomfortable, and probably they're risking off of high of day right here. So if you buy in right around VWAP, that's a pretty good sign. And then in this case, you know, it tries to bounce off of VWAP. If it's up a lot and comes down, typically speaking, it's going to make at least one attempt to bounce off of VWAP. And you can see it did that here. Now, it wasn't that great of a bounce, honestly. It wasn't a super great bounce. But you can see it did bounce off of VWAP. And almost always stocks that are up a lot that start panicking, you know, that start tanking, they're going to try, at least make an attempt to bounce off of VWAP. So if you want to take a stab at a dip buy, you know, with tight risk, continue to cut. I mean, cut if it continues to go against you. VWAP is a really good entry point. Or say you bought a dip buy, maybe down here. Say you bought a dip buy. You bought a dip buy down here, and it's starting to come up. You could sell half at VWAP because a lot of times it's going to reject off of VWAP. Short sellers will look to be selling into VWAP. And obviously, in this case, you know, it broke through VWAP, so that's not a great example. But I would say a lot of the time it does reject off of VWAP. So that could be a great place to take partial profits. So just keep that in mind, guys. No indicator is ever going to be perfect. No indicator is going to tell you exactly where a stock is going to bounce every single time, because if it were that easy, then everyone would buy there, and then no one would be able to get filled there, if that makes sense. But I mean, I hope it, you know, hope you can see the potential of this, because literally, because I put my order at VWAP, again, I always forget this ticker, EBON, I literally got filled exactly at the bottom. I got filled exactly at the bottom. So can you imagine dip buying this right before it goes on a run? I mean, that's crazy, bro. I bought it. I mean, I sold here. I was short, and then I covered here. But can you imagine dip buying this and then selling into this spike when there's a couple green candles? That's pretty damn cool. So start using VWAP. Get it in your arsenal. And hopefully this video helped you guys. Yeah, I mean, if there's any other examples that I can give, I'll probably be talking about them in the daily videos. But I just want to throw this one in here so you guys know how helpful it really is when you have it on the charts. Because again, it proves that buyers are in control. This entire time, it's still above VWAP. You can see VWAP is continually rising. And then, you know, it makes attempts to bounce. Right here, I would say that's almost a bounce off of VWAP. And when it breaks VWAP, it shows that the sellers are a little bit more in control. It kind of fails to hold above VWAP. And then it finally gets above VWAP. So I risked off of that and I covered that. And then, man, I mean, it's just not risk off. That was where I took my profits. So it's just, it's a really cool level to keep in mind, because it's very likely to be a turning area, at least in the short term, if that makes sense. And it also shows who's in control in the long term. So this might have been a little bit, you know, verbose. I apologize if that's the case. Trying to deal with this tissue in my lap here. But hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. And this will be, you know, just another tool in your arsenal to help predict when stocks are going to bounce better. Because the better you can predict them, the more money you're going to be able to make by getting better entries. So again, hopefully this video helped. If it did, please I don't know. Make contact with the like button. Like icon. If it's not a button, I'm sorry. WB, I'm sorry for that one. Someone was saying it's not a button, it's an icon. But I don't want to get all technical here. So that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, you know the drill. Let's grow better together, and hopefully I do as well.
Preguntar, bebé, dime por qué te mientes. No puedes esconder todo lo que tú por mí sientes.